This week on the Storycraft Society, I am going to be trying something that I have never done before. So we're going to see how it goes. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Garmin. This is the Storycraft Society, and I have always kind of had a problem when I have built my terrain boards. They always end up having this outside edge that I end up painting black. It also causes a problem because the outside edge is foam, so if you bump it into something, it could damage it. And I've seen a ton of people who take and make boxes for the outsides of their boards, and I'm just going to be totally honest. I don't really enjoy working with wood, and that's the type of thing that if I did it, it would just be such an extra annoying part of the process for me personally. I've always shied away from doing that because I just don't want to mess with that step. Well, I saw this corkboard. Now, it was on sale in the clearance section for $10, so I picked it up. Honestly, it looks just about perfect for what I need it to do. My idea, at least for this video, is I'm gonna try and make a terrain board out of this. Actually, it's kind of a similar project, I guess, to my 3D map tutorial. That's a video you can check out on the channel if you're interested, but with this, it's just like a perfect little box that I can put everything down in. And also, I guess for this video, I'm not gonna do it as like a tutorial video or anything where I'm like showing you step by step along the process, because almost everything that I'm going to be doing in this build I have done on the channel somewhere else before. So I think I'm just going to take you along for the ride and just let you know how certain things go and what decisions and stuff I make. So without any further ado, let's get to crafting. I started obviously by unwrapping the bulletin board, and then I pulled out some sheets of dollar store foam core. This is the stuff that's just $1 a sheet. It's got the really easy to peel paper off of the front and back, and I made sure that that fit down inside of the frame. This so far has worked absolutely fantastically. The next thing that I need to do is start looking down over the top of this thing and starting to sketch in what I want it to look like. I want this to be a little different than other boards that I have. I want to be able to use this for games like Moonstone as well as Dungeons and Dragons. So the thing that I would like, I think, is to have a water feature. So it's going to be a road that eventually leads to a creek. And I think that creek is going to kind of run along the side and then turn a little bit, and then there's going to be a bridge that fits over it. I have a bridge specifically up here, and I don't get to use it very often, so I think I'm going to actually make this part of the build. This is already starting to look super killer. I actually can kind of use the corkboard to be its own like kind of dirt surface for the bottom of the water. I'll get to that in a little bit, but everything here looks really good. Next steps and important things to note. I'm gonna get all of this white foam glued down. That's definitely next. And all of these vertical lines here on the edges of my waterways, I'm gonna be filling those with a like ground product later. So I'm not super worried about that. Same goes with this line. I'm gonna be putting flock eventually over it, and I'm gonna be putting dirt and stuff over it. So I think this will be good. I'm also going to leave this very flat because, again, number one criticism when it comes to this style of terrain, I want to be able to put buildings and things on it or trees and things on it so that I can change the appearance of it when I need to. Other than that, let's jump into getting this glued down, and then I will check back in with you once I have all that done. Once I got all of the shapes glued down, the next thing I needed to do was get my ground texture on there. And for this, I'm gonna just be using sand. Once it dries, it will stick down really well. Specifically, I like using Eileen's tacky glue here, but you can use any kind of PVA glue that you want. The key here is make sure that you let it dry all the way before you move on. But now that I've got that done, there isn't a whole lot left that I need to do other than just sit and wait for this to dry. The next step is actually going to be Mod Podging this, because after that point, I think it's going to be paint, and then after paint, then it's going to be starting to add in all of the texture of filling the edges of the river out. After I got everything all Mod Podged, then the next thing that I wanted to do was start to work on the creek bed. So that was very simple. I just took some ballast, some small terrain dirt, and leaf litter, and then I filled that creek bed with glue, sprinkled that in obviously, and then covered it in a scenic cement to get that to dry all nice and hard. The next thing that has to happen is I need to start filling the edges of the creek so that they're not, vertical straight up and down. They are like a creek bed. So what I'm going to use for that is this Autumn Ground by Soilworks, which is a scale 75 product. And that should be really, really simple. It should just be filling it in around the edges and putting it in place. With the banks of my stream all put in and now starting to dry, the next thing that I'm going to need to do is get all of my ground texture painted. So what I'm going to do is the Burnt Umber and the Craft Smart Brown. I'm going to go over the whole thing, and that will get my ground texture the way that I want it to look. And then after I finish that up, then I'll start painting in the road that's going to be running kind of over there-ish. With all of the dirt texture and stuff painted up and ready to go, the next thing that I need to do is flocking. I realize that I am currently right now out of Eileen's tacky glue, so I'm gonna have to go buy some of that, but honestly, that is the next major step, and once that's done, then it just moves me along to the resin pour, which, if I'm gonna be 100% honest, I'm kind of nervous about, but we will cross that particular bridge when we get there. I'm going to lay down all of that flock. If you want to see how I do this in depth, I will link a video down in the description, but I have my Epic Hills video, and that will tell you exactly how I am doing this process. But that's gonna take literally forever to dry, and then we'll move on. Welcome back, everybody, or more likely, welcome back to me, I guess, because you've probably been here the whole time, hopefully. It's been close to 2 days. It's taken that long for the flock to dry. I don't know if it's the humidity, I don't know what, but it just took absolutely forever this time. But the cool thing is it is now dry, and now it is time to move on to doing the water effects. So what I'm gonna be doing is using Realistic Water, which is a product by Woodland Scenics. It's like a ready mix water. You just pour it in and let it cure. Again, this is supposed to take 24 hours to cure, so it's gonna be another huge wait time for that to cure, but we'll see how that goes, and hopefully this looks really, really good. So really fun. Yeah, I thought it was sealed, and it turns out that it wasn't. So I watched it neurotically for like 15 or so minutes, when I had poured it, and as I sat there watching it, I kept noticing that all of the resin was going from this side down into that corner. And I kept thinking to myself, why is it still running? Why is it still running? So then I checked underneath of the piece, and there was a pool of it on the table. So that is great. So then, of course, I rushed it out here to the mudroom. And in rushing it out here to the mudroom, I tried to pull a little bit of the stuff out and try to re-level it out here. So, obviously now it's sitting on towels. But there's like these weird areas where, let's see if I can make it so that you can see, like that corner like has basically nothing in it at all. So that's gonna be interesting to fix later. That corner has basically nothing in it. Again, I don't know how that's gonna cause the Realistic Water to dry. That has a big patch where there's kind of nothing in it. I noticed this that happened. There's like this weird white spot that just showed up for some reason. I have no idea what's going on with that. And then I can't tell if that's like a reaction. I have not had a whole lot of luck with doing water effects. Anybody who's been a fan of the channel for any reasonable amount of time has seen all of the stuff I've done with water effects. And a lot of it goes wrong. So all I'm going to do is kind of try to not stress about it and, let it dry. And we'll see where we are from there. And then, hopefully I will be able to fix it. But that's what we got. Yay, water effects! So let's start with the bad news. After the disaster, I let the piece sit for a ridiculously long time, like 72 hours. And at 72 hours, it was still just barely starting to get to the point that the resin had gone clear. But then what's even weirder is that there's just these areas you can see in the footage here where, like, I guess because all the resin drained out, there was just no realistic water. I keep saying resin, but that's actually not what it is. The realistic water drained all the way out. So there was just basically like a film of realistic water over top of my creek bed effects. So in order to solve that, what I ended up deciding to do was, you're never gonna believe this, but go back to the realistic water and refill the areas where I filled the first time to get them up to level. That, of course, was after resealing the gap at the far end of the little creek so that it had no chance of it leaking out that side again. That's the bad news. Moving on to the good news, this stuff, once it finally did dry, is, I mean, just absolutely unquestionably awesome looking. It doesn't look kind of good, it looks amazing. Like one of the best and easiest water effects I've done, barring the fact that I did a horrendous and awful job sealing the creek bed area. I didn't have to put any top coat over it. I didn't have to add anything to the top of the water. It just looked like flowing creek water perfectly once it dried. So like I said, a little bit of good, little bit of bad, but once I got that finished, then the piece was done and ready to go. So of course, I threw a whole bunch of stuff onto it to show off a scene, but now I have this really cool, usable, strong edge. I don't have to worry about it all busting up. Wargaming or Dungeons and Dragons board. Like I said, this was more of a vlog style video than my normal like tutorial style videos are. So hopefully you enjoyed it. How much I'm going to get to use this, you know, it's going to be very situational when I use it, but now I have a road next to a stream. Anytime I need that, I can do that. For like games like Moonstone that are skirmish games, I think this is going to be a awesome, fantastic board. Granted, Moonstone is supposed to be played on a 3-foot by 3-foot board, but for 2 players, I think this will be perfectly fine. But that's it for this week. If you enjoyed it, definitely do all the YouTube stuff, like share this video with a friend, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, like the video, all that stuff. That really helps. It actually helps a lot more than you think it helps. So if you can do that, I would appreciate it greatly. But that's it for this week. So until next week, I'll be seeing you.